This is Start, Launch, Grow, brought to you by Million Labs.
Here's what we will cover in today's episode. In our catch-up section, we will discuss whether SaaS is dead and what the changing landscape means for business leaders like you. Then we will sit down with 𝗕𝗲𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁, founder of Minisport, to discuss his Start, Launch, Grow journey. Finally, we wrap up with one clear takeaway. Let's get started. At the beginning of the week, we checked our Slack bill and was like over 2K, and we're like, oh, what, And then just a few days later, I was invited to a brand new messaging system, basically a Slack rebuild from scratch. And, the first thing I thought was like, amazing how fast innovation happens when all of a sudden invoices arrive. And the second thing I thought was, wait, that's crazy. I mean, I know you're busy. I know you have all sorts of things to do, right? How has he, just rebuilt Slack in a few days? And to be honest, I was like, well, that's just another proof, I think, of what we are seeing, right? What is happening over the last time. The SaaS landscape is really shifting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I thought we'd record an episode about it and look at it. I mean, SaaS has been around for a long time. And for those that don't know, software as a service, SaaS, really means kind of typically where you're taking a subscription like a CRM or something like that, where you're taking a monthly or annual subscription from a customer. That's what a SaaS platform is. And it generally is in a web browser rather than traditionally you'd have downloaded a piece of software and had it running on your desktop. But now everything's in a web browser. So that's SaaS. Our rebuilding of Slack, was driven totally by the invoice coming in and going, crikey, why are we paying that much each month for something that we could knock up ourselves in, as you say, in a matter of days? And so that's exactly what we did. But I guess it made software more affordable because you were paying for it by month rather than having maybe a lot of upfront capital to buy, 100 seats or 10 seats or whatever it was. And, that allowed most startups to have, quite sophisticated software. You could have Salesforce and be paying a few $100, and a large corporate could have it and be paying a few $100,000 for it. So that was the beauty of it. But is it dead? That's a question. I definitely think it's in trouble. And if you look at share prices in a lot of the large SaaS startups like Salesforce, they've taken a real hitting in the last few months because people are starting to think, I wonder if this is a problem. And I think, my belief, it's probably fine for large corporates. Those large corporate contracts are still going to exist because you need support. You need all those things that come around a SaaS platform. But I think for medium to small enterprises, it probably is dead. If you're copying Slack, or if you're, making it look very similar to Slack, then actually you don't need to retrain your staff. You just go, guys, now using this, go use this, and it all looks familiar. So I think for the small to medium enterprises, it probably is dead in the long run.
I mean, certainly we see that the one-size-fits-all business model is being questioned by an increasing amount of people. And why is that, right? Like, why are we talking about it all of a sudden? And this is obviously because the costs of custom software has just been reduced by 60, sometimes even 70%. Now we are using AI to speed up the whole development process. And that obviously doesn't only have an impact on startup founders, but it has an impact on the whole software landscape and, how people think about their monthly spendings, as you say. Custom tools that might used to cost 30K are now sold for 10K or less sometimes, right? So this price change just makes it affordable for many more people, and more people are starting to really ask to rethink how they use it for their own businesses.
And if you look at an average company's tech stack, what does that look like? It looks like a CRM, some kind of accounting billing tool, maybe some quoting tool, some kind of project task management tool, and a bunch of probably spreadsheets as well that are being used by individuals or small departments, etc. And over time, that software starts to define the workflows of the company because you have to match the software rather than the software matching you. And I think that's going to be one of the changes here. I mean, we've all been involved with the SME that is gluing together all these different bits of software because the CRM doesn't talk to the spreadsheet and the spreadsheet doesn't talk to the billing software. And so somebody's constantly cutting and pasting out of one to the other. So I think over time, we're going to see companies push back on that and say, well, no, actually, my workflow, software is going to meet my workflow, not the other way around.
And I mean, I just looked up a study this morning that says that around 80% of SaaS features are never used. So that means companies are paying thousands every year for functionality they don't even use.
And you look at that across multiple tools. If you're using just 20% of 5 tools, well, you're paying a lot of extra money for stuff that you just don't need and doesn't meet your requirements. And the thing I hear from startup founders all the time is, I'm rebuilding this because the software that I use is, 1, is expensive, but 2, I don't use all the features and I just want the simplified version of it. We kind of see that in the language of founders. But the per seat pricing feels fairly cheap in the early days. Let's say it's $40 a month and you need a CRM. Well, that's fine. If there's 2 salespeople, $80 a month, it's not the end of the world. But when there's 10 of you, suddenly that's, $400 a month. That's $6,000 a year. That's just starting to add up to be a significant cost. So I think it's at that point and you go, well, how much does it cost us to rebuild that CRM? And the answer is, well, probably less than $6,000. So you're kind of making your money back in the first year, and you don't need all the features you don't need. And all the ones you do need, you can add in yourself or, with your development team and get them added. And rather than having those spreadsheets that are all the workarounds, you can have it all built into the same bit of software. It just starts to make a lot of sense.
If we just look at the impact on idea stage founders, obviously with costs going down, you can now test multiple ideas in parallel. So, I mean, what we say, the bare minimum is, it starts at around $5,000. And so if you have that, you can already push live an idea. If you have more time and don't want to spend that amount, you can also learn to build it yourself. We are using like Bubble for low code and Replit for a coded backend. And, I think for founders out there, I think if you are thinking about making SaaS a core piece of your startup, then we really recommend you to really go niche, right? Because the area of broad SaaS tools is increasingly becoming competitive for the reasons we discussed. But if you know a market, if you have worked in a market for quite some time, there it might still make sense to come up with a really custom piece and be the first one that comes up with a solution here.
In summary, is SaaS dead? No. But certainly it's going to be under stress and strain of, lots of SMEs and medium enterprises just rebuilding their own software. If you're spending anywhere between £300, $500, 450 euros, whichever currency you're in, kind of a month on software, then actually you can probably rebuild this for your annual cost. So it's worth having a kind of review of it, and you'll probably get better workflow as a result of it. Get rid of some of those spreadsheets, get rid of some of that human error. You can integrate AI into it. So there's lots of advantage for it. For idea stage founders, as you absolutely said, I think you have to go niche. You totally hit the nail on the head there. There's no point in generating another CRM, another, Airbnb marketplace. You kind of have to go properly niche with it, and there you'll find an audience in the market. Okay, Verena. So that's SaaS dealt with. Let's go and hear your interview with Matt.
Today I'm speaking with Matthew, founder of Minisport, dialing in from Hong Kong. Almost 14 years ago, he started the company with the mission to help young children find the sport they love. Since then, Minisport has grown internationally and now operates through multiple franchises. Welcome to the podcast, Matthew. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Verena.
Could you tell us a little bit more about what Minisport is all about and where the company stands today?
Absolutely. So Minisport exists for the sole reason to give children the chance to discover sports on their own terms. So we coach 6 sports through one program, using the same classmates, same coach, same venue. We just do 2-week sport rotations, and it creates a stable platform for children to really discover the sport that they want to pursue in later life. That's the essence of the company. We're now in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and expanding our franchise model throughout Asia and further in the years to come.
Let's go back 14 years ago when you started the company. How did you come up with the idea? Tell us a little bit about the early days.
It's been a long journey. I started the business on my own and used a lot of manual processes and a lot of heavy lifting on the coaching front to build up momentum. And actually what I realized probably about 3 or 4 months into my coaching journey was that parents were really craving a consistent and unique approach to give their children exposure to a wide range of sports without running around town and paying lots of money for different programs. So the minute we changed to a multiple sport model, the business just exploded within, 6 months. And we've been adding to the team ever since then. Had to come through COVID as well, which was an interesting period that I'm sure we can talk about, as that's when the app that we built together was kind of conceptualized and then brought to market.
Could you walk us a little bit through how you validated the business model back then?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, 14 years ago. So technology was in a different era completely. WhatsApp had just come out. I mean, I validated the need for my own system because of just the constraints that we found with any off-the-shelf solution that was out there. And we found a lot of gym softwares kind of geared to teaching centers and these kind of businesses that didn't match the model that we had. And we simply felt that building our own system would not just allow us to continue with the way we were operating, but also to kind of lead the way in terms of the functionality and the user experience that we could provide our very specific cohort of clients that we know very well and we know the needs of very well.
Has COVID had also an impact on your business model itself? Has that evolved since then?
Yeah, I mean, we started doing a lot of private groups during COVID, and actually that model has kind of stuck around. People wanted to be coached with their friends in their own homes, and that business model is certainly still part of our business. Yeah, the business model is basically kind of where it was. I just think everything behind the scenes tightened up massively. There was no room for inefficiencies or delays or being off the ball during COVID. So we've definitely come out the other side. There was a moment during that period where I felt like it could become the making of us and not the breaking of us. And I'm glad that we managed to partner with you guys to bring what is now, the kind of fundamental technological part of our business to the market. And launching that was a real experience as well.
It would be really interesting to hear from you, like, how did you assess when was the right time to make the shift and build a platform?
Yeah, I think the real point, we did lose a couple of admin staff along the way. And I could see this, I felt stressed by bringing people into the workplace that was so manic. I just kind of developed things as and when over the years, and I'm not a tech person myself, so I knew the demand was there and I just needed that technical support really to be able to manage the excessive demand that we were experiencing. So I'm sure there are many other businesses that have similar founders to myself where the demand is not an issue. That's not the bottleneck. It is about how you can actually deliver at a consistent quality and build a system that your team are comfortable working with and can execute quick tasks efficiently and not deal with backlash from clients who have the same questions, etc.
What did you do to keep a complex platform to reduce that to the minimum features it requires? Because that's so hard. We see that as a big challenge for almost all founders we work with.
We still built a lot of features that we shouldn't have built, to be honest. And it's very hard for you guys because you don't know the ins and outs of our business to really be able to say, don't do that, or maybe delay this, because we come to you as founders going, usually as very passionate problem solving type individuals that go, no, we really need to have this because it's going to serve so much value. And, even today I was on our dashboard and there was a functionality that I didn't even know existed. I was speaking to our operations guy and he said, I actually use this from time to time. But as a founder, I clearly thought that was super valuable at the time and I haven't used it in 2 years. So it is I think surrounding yourself with people that know your business, people that work, and really consult your team while you go through this journey of building an app, because there's probably things that you don't know they need, and there are probably a lot of things that you think they need that they don't. So I think really keeping that open communication and not just going down, which is easy, I think, now in the world of AI, to just go down a rabbit hole and say, how can I build this app and what would the features be? And all, I think you really need to have the kind of input from the humans who have been on the front line and seen what things cause stress to them, what things are real pain points, because a pain point might be a pain point, but it only happens twice a year, not twice a day. Whatever platform you build, there will always be, if you're dealing with a high volume of clients, there will always be edge cases that the platform can't solve, and you're going to have to do something, whether that's, give them some discount or refund them, or there's going to be some edge case on the edge that you can't build a system around everything, right? And I think there's an obsession once you start getting into this to think, it needs to be perfect. And actually, I think that's a common thing. A lot of entrepreneurs are probably perfectionists. They don't want to push things out to market until it's just perfect, because it's their reputation on the line and they're used to doing things at the best possible standard. There's no perfect system. And I think, you have to understand that there are things that can be dealt with off platform until the frequency of that problem becomes justifiable to build it into your system, especially if budgetary constraints are, a factor.
You already mentioned now a few learnings that you got from the launch phase. Was there also something that surprised you once you started onboarding users?
We kind of pressed the button, sent the message out, migrated everyone, incentivized them to get onto this new platform. And then within about 2 hours, we realized that it was nothing to do with the app. It was a kind of a third-party platform that we were using for people to verify their emails. So all of a sudden, we've just sent an email. We sent 10,000 emails out, and we'd only signed up for the plan that allowed 40 emails or something like that to be verified. So all of a sudden, we're looking around, and actually, there was nothing to do with the system we built. There was just these outlying things that, completely just be overlooked.
Yeah. So what's the impact of the application of the business, and how much is the app being used today?
The app is being used obviously on a daily basis, and it is amazing to have something that it's 2 or 3 taps away from booking with us now, whereas before it would have been probably having to reach out to someone to find out what to do, and it was a little bit all over the place. We've got a very strong database on our app, and we can use the information of where they're based, how old their children are, when they last logged into the app or attended a class. Just all these metrics that allow you to cohort clients and send them relevant or useful information. That's been a real game changer. And for the coaches as well, I think that was one of the big wins. We actually have the app for coaches. So having everything centralized for their schedules so they could take attendance. And now we've built in the ability to award character badges and performance ratings and all of these things. I think that when it comes to scaling teams, both here and internationally, having a centralized platform is very important, rather than trying to get people to sign on to Google Calendar and then go to somewhere else for something. It's been really useful for the coaches, especially to see that we have invested in making their lives as frictionless as possible.
Looking back, what were the key stepping stones that helped you move from early traction to real growth? And at what point did you decide to expand into franchises?
I always had the franchise model in mind. I think if you look at the Forbes top 10 franchises for under 50,000 US to start, 3 of them, when I last checked this years ago, were sports coaching companies. It's very much a franchisable model. I think there are a lot of very good sports people who have a passion for educating. They've got energy. They want to be outdoors. That's something that I want our franchisees to be able to focus on, as opposed to dealing with inefficient systems, messaging parents into the late night. And I think, the nature of our ideal franchisee, we want to preserve that energy and enthusiasm for the frontline services. Now, whether that's coaching kids or building partnerships or even working with me to develop various concepts, we want to preserve that energy and not suck the life out of them by trying to stay on top of admin, because this is a business where it's high touch. Parents care a lot about their kids naturally. Yeah, if you don't create the right structure around a volume-based high-touch industry, then you're not going to scale fast. So franchising was always in mind. I always wanted to do it, and I'm lucky to have 2 amazing franchise partners in Taiwan and Singapore. And yeah, looking forward to the next ones coming on this year and helping to spread the joy of the program across the world, really.
How has your role as the founder actually evolved over time?
Well, obviously, I'm not coaching anymore, so that's a big change. Although I do try to coach my son at the center we have here every Tuesday, which has mixed results. In fact, the reason why we have our own business, coaching other people's kids, is for that reason. That it's very hard to coach your own child, and I'm finding that out myself at the moment. My role has changed very much more strategic now. I'm looking at what our real mission is and our values, and much more kind of focused on the technical development behind the app and the website, and how we acquire new clients and how we actually work out who our best clients are to fit our business. So it's just freed me up a lot. I mean, I'm still working a lot, But I think most entrepreneurs don't work to free up time to do nothing. They generally free up time to do more value-adding things. And I always look at a business as kind of a speedboat. And the faster the speedboat goes, the bigger the wake is behind it. If the speedboat slows down, then there's no wake for the people behind. So you got to keep moving. As founders, you don't want to stand still, right? You want to be able to empower people, put them into the positions you were doing. And I think the app's really helped me to do that, because before the app came out, I found myself jumping in on the front line, helping out with clients. And this was 2 years ago, after 12 years in the business, I need to be on the front line here to put out fires in case anything goes wrong. But yeah, I think my role has certainly become more of what I envisaged it to be as a business owner starting out when I was younger.
Could you share one key takeaway from your journey or some key learning that you want to share with our listeners?
The one thing I would say is that it's kind of why I went back to the beginning is get something working. What is the 80% of tasks and things that your clients really need that you can serve them with on your kind of budget, if you like, and don't obsess. It is natural, I think, for, like I said, entrepreneurs to just want to perfect things. And I would say that trying to let go of that a little bit now. I realize the system we've built is a lot better than, well, if not the best, I believe, for what we do. And, it's gotten there because of the obsession to try and make things perfect. But you do need to sometimes let things settle. And actually, I think the end of last year, we tried to push out a lot of new features at the same time. So I think the planning, once you do start to get some momentum with the new piece of technology and it's driving good revenue, there's a natural tendency to try and reinvest everything, time, energy, money. Let's go now. Let's go 100%. And I think we hit a bit of a bottleneck last year at the end of the year because we didn't have a clear timeline. So I think, making sure that you prioritize the development and understand that things take time, and also understand which things aren't going to bring you really that much value.
That's so true. It was great to chat, Matthew. Thank you so much for taking the time, and we wish you and the whole Minisport team all the best.
Great interview, Verena. What's the learnings that you got from Matt?
Stepping back, the conversation with Matthew showed that you don't need a complete product from day one to become a successful founder. As a bootstrapped company, Matthew started with one-on-one coaching to validate the market. Today, he runs multiple franchises internationally, but in the early days, there was no platform. It was just him testing whether the need truly existed outside his bubble. And only later he saw real traction. He decided to build a tech platform. Most people tend to build first and validate later. Matthew did the opposite, and that made him a real success story.
So if you enjoyed this episode and you want to hear more conversations like this, make sure you subscribe to our podcast at all the major podcast providers. Our goal is to encourage more people to take action and turn their ideas into execution, into a startup, into a project. We also run our Start, Launch, Grow newsletter, where we share practical advice for every stage of your journey. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next episode.